Good morning, everyone. My name is Marissa Segundo. I'm with Resource Recycling Systems, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar, the NextCycle of Recycling Introduction in NextCycle Michigan. So we have a great panel today, and I'm excited to introduce them shortly, but have to start off with housekeeping items. So you will notice that you were all muted, and that is intentional, but we don't want that to stop the chat. So we have if you look at the bottom of your screen, you've got a panel that you'll see a Q&A and two little overlapping chat boxes. You can, throughout the presentation, utilize the Q&A button to ask questions. If you're having technical issues, we can answer them through the Q&A. But please don't stop your questions. The panel will be seeing the Q&A, and we hope to have time at the end of this presentation to answer some of the Q&A live. But if not, we'll go ahead and make sure that those questions are submitted via email. We are recording this webinar, and we will go ahead and post that in the RRS YouTube channel, and we'll send that out to all attendees after the presentation. So we'll start out. Another way to interact with our presenters and during this session is through a live polling feature. So you can do this two ways. The super easy way is actually the one on the right, where you just open up a browser and go to pollev.com/recycle123. You could leave that browser open, and as soon as we start the questions, you'll see those pop up. But if you'd like to use your phone, and that's also in the chat too, so you can just follow that link. You can also use your phone. So you have to start off by sending a text message. And so the person you're sending a text message, their number is 37607. And the first text you'll send them is just recycle123. All one word, not cap sensitive. And then when you press send, you'll get a notification that you are in the poll. Just that easy. We have a couple questions that you can answer either via text or online. All of that being said, we'll start our very first question. Super simple, and we already have overachievers that have already answered it. Good job. So who's joining us today? Are you representing a college, university? Are you a public sector representative, city, state, or county? Hauler, MRF, those are in the same category. Equipment, material processing, you'll see each of these different categories, you're picking a different letter. Are you a brand manufacturer? It looks like we've got a lot of representation from there. Impact investor or funder, and then a trade association or nonprofit. We have some others too, so that'll be interesting to see how that works out. Cool. So I'll just give a couple of seconds for that. And when we see those bars start to diminish, we'll go ahead and introduce our first speaker. Okay. So it looks like we've got a nice mix of people here. Quick review of the agenda. We're going to start with Robert Jackson from Eagle, and then Matt Fletcher is going to talk about the vision for NextCycle. Then we have a great panel of different representatives to talk about pieces of NextCycle Michigan and how it all works out. A gap analysis to talk about the needs in Michigan, and then kind of dig on a high level into those innovation tracks and how you can participate. So, and then the Renew Portal partnership, how we're going to get all this funded, and then how you all can get involved. Followed by that Q&A with the questions, but don't let those stop coming in through the Q&A. Once again, not the chat, but the Q&A is where you're going to want to put your questions in throughout the presentation. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Robert Jackson. He is with Eagle. He's the manager of the Energy Office, and he's also the Energy Ombudsman. So Robert, take it away.
Okay, thank you. I do want to correct the title, and that's kind of an old slide. I was actually the director of the Michigan Energy Office. The Energy Office was transferred to Eagle about 1.5 years ago, and it's now part of the Eagle's Materials Management Division, and I'm one of the assistant division directors there. And my responsibilities are to oversee the sustainability programs, which include energy, but also the recycling, as well as the other programs that that are of importance to the agency, such as NextCycle. I want to welcome everyone with NextCycle of Recycling, the introduction to NextCycle for Michigan. It's been a long time coming. As most of you have been interactive with Matt, you know that this is important to the state, and this is really important to me too personally. The program is focused on developing a circular economy, creating a robust recycling material supply chain, and supporting recycling content manufacturing in Michigan. I don't want to spend a lot of time on really getting into the details of NextCycle, because that's something that Matt is going to do along with Jim at RRS. So I just want to say welcome. This is the first of many of these discussions that we're going to have on NextCycle, and I want to turn it over to Matt, where we can talk more about today's events and then how you can get involved with the program in the future. So Matt, turn it to you.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks. Yeah, it has been a long time coming. A lot of work has gone into getting us to today. We're really happy we have such great turnout. I'm Matt Fletcher with Eagle. Been working as a recycling market development specialist for quite a while. And we heard you. We really did. Over the past couple of years, we've heard that growing markets is key to having a robust recycling supply and creating that circular economy. And to do that, we need all levels of the supply chain to invest, to grow, to be stewards of these materials that were once waste and are now resources. Now, why is NextCycle is important? I think the most important part of NextCycle is that we are well positioned for growth, and that end markets are dependent on that strong recycling supply chain that I mentioned. Most importantly, the two components that you'll learn about today, of the challenge competition and the partnership platform, those two components create a system for equitable and fair access to technical and financial resources that grow Michigan's circular economy. And we know at Eagle that our traditional RFP process for grants is a great way to foster growth, but it also leaves some communities and businesses behind because they don't have maybe they're not quite ready. And what NextCycle will do will help to provide those technical resources and financial resources to get them ready to be positioned for growth. And the other part that I'm really excited about is we're creating a pipeline to respond to that newfound interest and shared responsibility to fund and grow Michigan's recycling supply chain. So what that means is we're identifying different partners that want to that have the same goal, and providing an opportunity to support those teams that are going to come through the NextCycle process for actionable steps that can grow Michigan's recycling supply chain right now. And we've done this using data. The data that we have shows that it is clear that recycling means business. We have opportunity to move material out of the waste stream and into the recycling supply chain, which in the end has a $9 billion potential for annual labor income and $33 billion potential for economic output. And this is all, this data is all found in a report that will be linked in the chat. There it is, right there, perfect timing. So I'm really excited that we're moving forward on this. We've got some great additional speakers, and I'll join you at the end to wrap it up.
Thanks, Matt. This is great. That was a great intro, and you can really see the passion and how important that this project is for Michigan. So we're going to kind of get down in a little bit of details with this. So it's my pleasure to introduce the following panelists: Jim Frye with RRS. He's our CEO and founder. He is also will be joined by Yuri Friedman. He's a senior consultant at RRS and has been very involved in Colorado NextCycle. And then subsequently, we have Dan I ruined it. I'm sorry, Dan. Radomski. I got it. Okay. And he's with Centropolis, which is an accelerator, and he's the director there. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Jim.
Thank you so much, Marissa. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you, helping to make Michigan's recycling future so much stronger. And we have some important tools that we're unveiling here today, and that we want to engage you and all of your networks in, really in what we kind of refer to as a marathon over the next 3 to 5 years, as NextCycle and its components help support your efforts to improve recycling in Michigan. And you can see from this slide that there's really 2 components framing the circular economy push. And one of those components are the innovation challenges. And as Matt said, these are a new approach to building the right kind of projects, solutions, partnerships, and initiatives that address Michigan's real gaps and use the latest in innovation, the best talent, the best teams to accomplish that. It's structured, it's a track-based approach that Yuri is going to share more with us in just a few minutes, along with Dan's expertise in managing those. Parallel to that is what we call the Renew Partnership Portal, which is has a very strong focus on the real work on the ground. We know that projects that improve recycling are already underway. They will do new things tomorrow, next month, a year from now, 3 years from now. And that part of NextCycle Michigan is targeted, always supporting those initiatives as they emerge, again, as part of a strong grant-based approach. If you go to the next slide, please. And you can see what you have in front of you, a team that's presenting to you today, is part of that network of support with very strong emphasis on some expertise, both within RRS and Centropolis, and you'll meet Dan in just a moment, but also with that strong network and development and support capability that the Michigan Recycling Coalition has brought, and you'll have Karen talking to you shortly as well. And then with the full capabilities, not just of Eagle and all the staff and leadership there, but also of the entire, the governor's initiatives in every department. So those are sort of the foundational support networks, but really NextCycle is about having all of you bring your recycling initiatives together with the support of this NextCycle initiative. And if you go to the next slide, please. And so, really, well, yeah, just to hand it off to you, Yuri, the teams that are part of this structure are where the proof is in the pudding. And that's why you're here in this first meeting today, is to really begin that process of building initiatives, projects through collaboration. And Yuri's going to share more about that.
Well, thanks, Jim. And thanks for having me on, Marissa, and everybody else, and Matt. So I'm going to take a couple minutes, and when I say a couple minutes, like 3 minutes, so really short and quickly go through these challenge tracks and explain a little bit more about what it means, and then we'll get into the challenge tracks in more detail later in this presentation. But first one, what are the teams? It's really, if you they just have one thing in common. If you have an idea to develop, expand, otherwise improve upon Michigan's recycled economy, you could potentially be a team. So that's it. Nonprofits, for-profits, universities, governments, haulers, all of those could be a team. You could be an individual in your basement with a new idea to disrupt recycling in Michigan, all the way to a multinational company that's publicly traded in another state that's thinking about bringing an end market into Michigan. All these would potentially be in available to apply to NextCycle. You don't have to be based in Michigan to start. So you could be based in a different state, a different country even, but you do have the project that you are implementing or looking to implement does have to affect the Michigan recycled economy. So that's kind of it. It's an idea to improve recycling in Michigan, and you have to have a project that ends up in Michigan. And that's the bar to be a team. Next slide, please. We'll talk more about these in just a moment, but the innovation challenge, there's 6 different tracks. Each track has slightly different criteria for entry. Each of the tracks is designed to address a gap in Michigan's recycling system. All of them have funding, all of them have different elements. And really, I just want to say that there's 6 tracks, and we'll talk about more about them later in the slide deck. So why should teams apply to NextCycle? What is unique about it? As Jim said, there's funding, and of course that's attractive to get the funding and the grants at the end. But what makes NextCycle unique is that teams in NextCycle are not just competing for a grant award. Instead, teams that are accepted into one of the tracks collaborate with each other. They collaborate with private investors, private sector. They collaborate with Matt and Eagle, collaborate with RS, and all of these resources combined work together to help each team succeed. So really, if you get into NextCycle, our goal is to have you succeed. We want to see every team that gets in, get funding, make their project a reality. Some of the resources that are there in NextCycle available for teams, and these are for all 6 tracks. Each track is slightly different, but these 5 resources are available in all 6 of the tracks. There's the data room, which is information, public and private data that's available for each team. It could include things like availability of feedstock in a county in Michigan, or the price per square foot for warehouse leasing in Detroit. So what do you need to make your project a success? The advisory committee, a huge part of it too. So these are resources, mentors, experts that can help your team design your project. It could include things like how do you make a pitch deck and how do you tell a story, all the way to a design engineer. The boot camps, trainings, I'm going to let Dan talk about those in a second. All the tracks end with a pitch session. This would either be a pitch competition or a showcase. This is an opportunity for the teams to present their business idea in front of investors, Eagle, the technical advisory committee, or others. And these are the folks that will be investing in your team. So you go into NextCycle, you get accepted, you go through the process, and at the end, you present your business idea. And this is one of the ways you can get award money. And then finally, of course, we want the teams to implement their projects. So that is the end goal of this, is to have successful, innovative ideas, get the funding, the resources they need to make the project a success. I'm going to pass it off now to Dan to talk a little bit more about how NextCycle uses some of the elements from the venture capital world, the entrepreneurial world to make successful teams achieve.
Thanks, Jerry. Dan Radomski with Centropolis Accelerator. We're a state-based organization that is funded by Michigan Economic Development Corporation and Eagle to help Michigan-based entities that are bringing new innovations in physical products, advanced and sustainable materials, and clean tech-related innovations to market. So we're grateful to be a part of this program and working with RS and Eagle to bring it to life. One thing is kind of an incubator accelerator program we've recognized over the years is anytime you're bringing a new innovation to market, especially as something as complicated as recycling and upcycling, it requires 3 things. 1, a team, 2, a viable business model, and 3, investment. So for instance, if you have an idea to recover a waste stream and convert it into a value-added product, it's going to be really important that you connect with an organization that has this waste stream, as well as others in the value stream that recover, handle waste, and process that waste downstream. Not to mention customers that would see value in purchasing the recycled or upcycled product. So the NextCycle team will be curating interested parties to match innovators with those ideas to those that have waste streams, as well as others in the value chain critical to enabling a sustainable business model. Our teams have experience incubating and accelerating new ideas. I think what makes the NextCycle program truly unique is that it provides the knowledge, expertise, and training and exposure to bring ideas to life through a team-based approach. The data room will, provide the knowledge to inform your business plan. The advisory committee will provide the opportunities to test your idea and receive feedback and form a viable business model. The boot camps will put further shape to your business and project plans. And the pitch sessions will provide that critical exposure to industry, government, and investors to enable those ideas to gain traction, lead ultimately to implementation, and eventually scale. So bottom line, all innovations, even if project-based, really need to be handled like a business, which requires careful planning, strong business model value proposition, of course, commitment of key stakeholders in the value chain, and an investment to see it through. NextCycle provides that comprehensive support, and we look forward to working with you all. Yuri?
So funding obviously is a big part of NextCycle too. So how do we get these invest in teams? How do we get the money, the seed money or the investment dollars to have these teams succeed? Teams accepted into the different challenge tracks, innovation challenge tracks, have multiple opportunities for funding. This could be through direct investments from a brand. It could be direct investments from venture capitalists. This could be through the award pool, which includes in-kind support as well as monetary support. The micros grants, so small scale grants up to $5,000 to $10,000 directly given to teams, as well as other funding pathways. Jim's going to talk a bit more about the Renew portal, but what we're doing is leveraging state resources with private sector investment dollars to get money and support into the hands of teams. So teams that really need the dollars can use them. This also includes, as I mentioned, the potential for technical, in-kind, and other non-monetary investments needed to help teams succeed. If we have time, Marissa, I'd like to pass off to Dan. If there's anything else you want to add here, Dan, about the investments or funding we can give to teams.
Yeah, just a couple of quick points. Obviously, the funding is established to support even pilots, demonstrations of ideas, to test viability, as well as scalability issues. But having some involvement in innovation challenges in the past, I found them to be just a really unique way to crowdsource ideas globally to solve problems. And particularly in this case, I think for this to work well, we'll need problematic waste streams, those that have problematic waste streams, whether it be manufacturers or those downstream in the recovery processing of waste, to commit to support innovation challenges. The more direct that challenge is and very specific waste stream, the easier it's going to be for us to make known the problems and uncover the ideas to solve those challenges, of course. And I think it's what I found to be really valuable is when companies commit, that also is an encouragement for others. So a few years ago, I organized an automotive innovation challenge, and there was a $40,000 award prize to the best ideas for next generation lighting systems integrated in interior and exterior vehicles. But the sponsor was Ford Motor Company, and that's what really inspired innovators from across the globe for the prospect to be able to work with a major automotive manufacturer. So we hope to be able to have major industry sponsors that that step up and support these challenges. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan and Yuri. And as you go to the next slide, just in summary, we're really talking about accelerating and catalyzing adoption of recycling practices at the next level, at best practice level across the state, in order to triple our state's recycling rate. And that means bringing the necessary funding, the effort, the talent, the investment. And that's what NextCycle Michigan is really structured to do, is to really become that accelerant and catalyst. How do we develop successes that can be then scaled across the state? Those successes and impact should address gaps that we know our state has. And Elisa is going to describe some of those recycling gaps that have already been documented. In other words, what's the opportunity and challenge ahead?
Great. So now's a great time to pass the mic on to Elisa Seltzer. She's a senior consultant at RRS, and we've heard such great information. But as Matt alluded to earlier, we're not going to do this without data, and data is important to find out where the gaps are, where the opportunities are. And so we've done quite a bit of research and will continue to do some data collection through this process. So without further ado, Elisa.
All right, thank you, Marissa. So there is a wealth of data that has been collected over the past couple years. It is still ongoing. Already referenced is the Michigan's Market Development Study, which is linked in your chat. So you can pull that, followed by this year's gap analysis. And so we have a wealth of data, and I want to focus first on end markets, because building end markets is really key to reaching 45% recovery while recognizing that there are gaps in the entire supply chain. So some of the end market needs and opportunities that rose to the top in this process were things like textiles. We've heard a lot about fast fashion lately. Textiles is one of the growing the fastest growing waste streams in the US right now. And there are not many end market opportunities in Michigan, although there are some very innovative and entrepreneurial ones that are in the works. So huge opportunity there. Another one that rose to the top, of no surprise to recyclers, mixed plastics and flexibles and films. While there are end markets available, we need a lot more growth in this sector. Composite lumber is one opportunity, but there are others looking for innovative solutions there. The third that really rose to the top would be organics. We need a huge improvement in access to food scrap recovery to reach 45%. And last is glass. There's not a single glass end market in the state of Michigan, and there are lots of opportunities for end market development, and we're looking for investment and ideas there. So moving on to some of what we currently see. At Michigan's 18% recycling rate, you can see on this map, everything in blue would be a MRF, a material recovery facility, and our current throughput represents about 360,000 tons per year of throughput. And our current organics recycling represents about 1.9 million tons per year, and that's primarily yard waste. So when we look at the MRF throughput, moving to the next slide, when you look at that current throughput against what we need in MRF throughput to reach a 45% recovery, we're seeing a gap of 900,000 tons per year. What this map represents, all those squares in yellow would be new MRF capacity or expanded existing MRF capacity to reach that 45% recovery and move those many materials through to end markets. You can see the darker gray counties would be those that have more recoverables available and where more investment would need to take place. When you move on to the another area, and this really reflects access, would be drop-off sites, comprehensive drop-off sites. Up to half of recyclable materials fall outside of traditional collection programs. And one of the things that we demonstrated and found in our data is that if we were to add 100 drop-off sites across the state of Michigan to capture that extra 300,000 tons of these recyclables to reach that 45%, these are theoretical places where they could be to reach 98% of the population. So this is a huge opportunity to pool investment and resources and funders to have comprehensive drop-offs that can accept everything from e-waste to mattresses to paint to tires and on and on and on. So some of the model drop-off site programs represent what's possible with comprehensive drop-off site development. And last that I want to highlight today is organics processing. Of the 1.1 million additional tons per year that needs to be recovered, and so that includes access, collection, processing, and end markets. Every step of the supply chain is really focused on food scraps. And if you look at this map, you can see that the lime green section, the southeast region of this state, over half or almost half of that 1.1 million tons could be recovered from Southeast Michigan. So lots of opportunity. There is tons of data to support all of this. And one of the exciting things is you will be able to drill down by region, by county, by commodity, and really think about these different innovation challenge tracks as to where your idea can find a home and help fill some of these gaps to build and grow Michigan's circular economy. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Marissa so she can help introduce a deeper dive into those challenge tracks.
Excellent. Thanks, Elisa. And that data is so important. And you can really see, even we're halfway through this thus far, how much support that participants or partners within the NextCycle Michigan program are provided. This is a different way of thinking about recycling and recovery, and the catalyst for some economic building projects that can come from this. So this is really exciting to know that you're not alone in this process, that you're going to have a lot of support, and it's going to be a fantastic opportunity. Also, a quick reminder, we have questions coming in the chat or coming in the Q&A. Look for that Q&A box. send those in throughout. As I mentioned, we still have a whole lot more content, but we will get to those questions as quickly as we can. So keep them coming. All right, so now it's my pleasure to introduce Karen OBrien with the Michigan Recycling Coalition. She's the executive director and the smiling face that I'm sure everyone on this call has had the pleasure of meeting before. So Karen?
Hi, so I get to introduce 3 of the different tracks to you. The first track, of course, with all this discussion around organics, at least 1/5 of all waste disposed in Michigan is organic. So it's no doubt that we would have this focus on foods, liquids, and organic waste systems in Michigan. So the flows track is really designed to support both the public and private sector development and implementation of plans, investments, and infrastructure that reduce the amount of food scraps and organics disposed. So teams here are really recruited to join the track, and selected teams then will participate in a 3 to 4 month incubator experience, which includes a boot camp, and top projects will be paired with funding through the partnership platform and through potentially state grants. And targets in this category can really be targeted to impact all aspects of organics recovery, from collection and processing to end markets. But with the gap analysis that has happened, we really know that strong markets for finished compost are needed. And so there will be a focus on this particular track on filling that need. So, and in addition, food waste reduction and recovery programs that, put tech solutions in place and innovations in how we collect and manage this material will be kind of strongly considered. So some examples of projects really are, for example, Michigan has a lot of unmarketable right now wood waste, and potentially that could be turned into a marketable eco cat litter. Or, maybe someone's got an idea for a phone app that connects food producers with food recovery operations to move that uneaten food, up the or down the hierarchy in the way it's meant to be, so it feeds other people before then it goes to animal feeding operations before it then gets composted. So innovative ideas that help us to really target this solution. We're really, for this area, it's haulers, it's municipalities, it's universities, it's entrepreneurs. It's about existing processors looking to improve their operations so that they have the capacity to meet the need that will grow as we really target this area, organics. Moving on to roads. The roads track is really focused on expanding recycled content use in road construction. There's a lot of opportunities here, and it really aims to use recycled material content in roads and in roadside development, redevelopment projects that have the potential to improve markets for glass, for plastics, for organics, while at the same time really creating a resilient local and regional closed loop economy. This track is dedicated to piloting and demonstrating kind of new projects in road construction and management, and obviously supporting the adoption of policies and procurement specifications to drive those markets and connect private sector businesses with the local and state transportation leaders are going to be very important, because roads managers, road constructors are very risk averse, and we're going to have to overcome those obstacles, really meet the need here. This track includes both recruitment and boot camp gateway, as well as separate workshops to foster connections between these managers of and constructors of roads and the people who are trying to impact that area. Some examples are really, I think, very obvious here to me. A demonstration process to test the applicability of recycled asphalt shingles or the reuse of glass and tires specifically in roads and in bike paths in Michigan. Certainly, we want to make sure that Michigan based businesses using any of these recycled materials, tires, glass, roads, are competitive in the region. I think there's also projects that could demonstrate the real value of using compost in mitigating soil erosion and in stabilizing slopes. These are all the kinds of projects, or an example of the kinds of projects we'd like to see to impact roads. And as Michigan really steps up to make new roads, this is going to be critical. So we're targeting here construction companies, entrepreneurs, public works departments, county road commissions, and bringing everybody to the table to help us to get to the solutions for these problems is going to be a real important. The next track is really micros. These are micro scale, reduce, reuse, recycling solutions that are about really supporting small scale innovations around collection, processing, and material use. So micros can be used in a number of different ways, but they really serve as seed funding to foster a number of activities. It could be used to foster teams in other challenge areas. This track is really meant to be ongoing. It's meant to be relatively easy to secure these one-time funds. Could be one-time funding for capital improvements, for marketing, for research, for travel to get teams together or to get the consulting that a team needs, or for testing. Projects can lead to or be a part of another challenge track or can stand alone, but funding cannot pay for staff time here. This is really about demonstrating progress or helping someone to get to the demonstration of progress. And applicants must be able to demonstrate a need and an outcome that is related to all the gaps that have been identified. And, they'll be obligated to provide the state with a report on project outcomes and the next step as a result of those projects. So, this track is a little bit like a traditional grant program, but the difference really lies in that we want to make it easy for teams to apply for this to help to be kind of a first step to meeting some potentially larger step projects to be able to bear the risk of taking on larger projects. Some micro examples are really, there's a lot of things that could be contained in this track, but it could be equipment for an existing hub or spoke for a recycling processor or for an end market. It could be about a marketing budget for a growing compost hauler who wants to reach commercial operations, grocery stores, restaurants, that kind of thing. It's really up to your imagination here. But I think who we're really targeting here are municipalities, counties, teams in other tracks that are really trying to get a step up to meet recycling innovations or organic innovations. We're looking at startups, we're looking at universities and schools and existing businesses who are interested in doing more research and exploring. And I think Jim wanted to, no, I won't say that, but I think Yuri is here to talk about the next 3 tracks. So 6 tracks altogether.
Hi, thank you. And I know for attendees, it's good we're recording this, obviously, because there's a ton of information here. I'm going to talk about 3 more tracks. We don't expect you to remember this. There's going to be a lot more outreach and engagement around all of these tracks. There'll be multiple opportunities to dig into each of these and really get your questions answered. So this is the high-level review. So the I2 track, or the intergovernmental initiatives, the challenge here is to create or design public-private partnerships, regional collaborations, or innovative municipal programs. And once again, they all have to be designed to increase recovery rates in recycling in Michigan. This track uses workshops and limited boot camps, because it is really the intergovernmental and the municipalities might be applying here, to foster regional collaboration and planning. Unlike the tracks that Karen was just talking about, and some of the other ones I'll be talking about here in just a second, this track is really aimed at the public sector and the private sector partners. So we're talking about municipalities, governments, processors, haulers, folks like that. So some example projects, this is a little bit different. This isn't the capital intensive projects that some of the other tracks may have. This could be a multi-city metro area adopts complementary policies to increase recycling at the same time. Or multiple municipalities get together to form a solid waste authority, and the track helps to fund the research to do this or the staff time to do it. I'll move on to the next track now, which is the recycling supply chain. Under this one, the participants are challenged to increase material collection and or processing through improved hub and spoke efficiencies, processing, logistics, or material and market innovations. So this is really the big, in my eyes, this could be one of the big investment tracks. So these are large capital projects with significant dollars behind them. The types of participants we're talking about here could be an existing business with a proven technology or commercialization. So these are not the new innovative ones. These are ones that have examples of success already. We could be pulling end markets from other states into Michigan. So an example of this, I ran the Colorado NextCycle program, and we had a good example of this. We only had one track in Colorado NextCycle, but one of them was called Direct Polymers. Direct Polymers was not an end market for plastics. Direct Polymers is a secondary processor, so they could take dirty plastics from the Denver metro area, clean them up, do custom resin blends, and send them out to their markets for sale. The way that when they got into NextCycle, they learned what their new markets were, determined some custom resin blends, and they were able to secure funding to add a wash and pelletizing line. And so now Direct Polymers is able to increase the types of plastics they can take and process in the Denver metro region. The last track we're going to talk about is Recycling Innovations and Technology, RIT. To me, all of the tracks are exciting, so I don't want to say none of them aren't, but to me, this could be the most exciting one. This is the one where really we're challenging teams to develop a business or put together a team that best innovates a new material processing method, sorting technology, recycling product design. So these are really those disruptive, innovative ideas. These could be the startups, the entrepreneurs. These could be early stage companies. We aren't looking at tried and true tested innovations here. Teams from the other 5 tracks could get invited to RIT. So RIT is really the one that's outward facing. And this is the place where the investors, the VC folks, could see a 10x return on investment in 5 years. So these are the teams that do garner some outside investment, perhaps. However, if you're in the flows track or one of the other ones, and you've got an idea that could be investable to an outside investor, you may be invited to apply or participate in RIT, or at least go to the pitch competition RIT. So as I mentioned, some of the participants could be startups, entrepreneurs. I will go back to Colorado NextCycle and give an example here from one that joined the first cohort of NextCycle there. Great team, Vartega. Vartega is based out in Golden. Vartega is doing composite recycling, so carbon fiber recycling, and really high value material, commodity. They didn't measure success by the ton. This is really by the pound, because there's not a lot of it, but such a high value. They came up with an innovative technology that could combine this used composites into a plastic resin and make a really strong, robust plastic. They went through things like Techstars and these other incubators and accelerator programs, and they did secure funding through Colorado NextCycle to grow their project. So this is to me, a really fun track. I'm going to pass it back, I believe, to Jim. To Jim to finish this up.
Thank you so much, Yuri. And as you can see, there's both lots of content and lots of scope. There's lots of work to do, frankly. And the incubation process that's part of the innovation challenges is an important part of harnessing the skill sets, the data, the challenges, the teams, the funding, et cetera. But we also know that change doesn't always wait for nice structured innovation challenge projects. Change happens when it needs to, and projects are already being put in the ground as we speak. In fact, we've documented as part of the Renew Partnership Portal over 100 companies, agencies, organizations that are already planning projects in Michigan that total over $100 million towards improving our recycling rate. We know from prior work, prior analysis as part of the Governor's Recycling Council, that as much as $500 million is needed in investment to really change the game in recycling in Michigan in all the ways we've talked about. So it's a huge lift, but the Renew Partnership Portal is intended to not only channel funds into the incubation challenges, but also channel partnerships and funds actually into on-the-ground projects when they're ready. So whether you're a group or individual or company or agency that wants to move through the structured innovation challenges, or you need to get started right now because your project needs to be done, as one company told me, in the next 18 months, this is where you draw on the resources that we're talking about here. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see that as Renew partners that are putting projects in the ground now, there's also opportunities to integrate into the recycling innovation challenges as well. For those companies and agencies that want to be more higher profile, there's also opportunities there to be funding partners, sponsors, track sponsors, to be technical assistance and training sponsors. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that there's a variety of ways that we anticipate this contribution from various groups to be channeled as part of this initiative in Michigan. Whether it's skills, talent, funding, it's all good. And it's something that NextCycle Michigan and the Renew Partnership Portal is structured to help channel towards impact on the ground. Earlier, Elisa mentioned the data, the gaps, the analysis. And part of NextCycle is going to be annually tracking our progress to fill those gaps, to increase that recycling rate, to increase the demand for our recyclables, to improve end market options. So that annual recalibration is what will be available to everyone participating as we recalibrate and move forward in our movement in this process through NextCycle Michigan tools. And with that, I'll turn it back to Marissa.
Thanks, Jim. That was a great overview. And, you know, Dan said something that really resonated in my head when he used the word crowdsourcing. And this is kind of a crowdsourcing ideas, but on the funding side, it's why is, you know, if we look at something like, these different funding opportunities, why are they so popular? And it's because it's personalized. So if you're doing a funding for somebody that you know or a project that you trust, this is a great opportunity for companies that support Michigan and ideas in Michigan and growing the Michigan economy to play a part in this. So even if they're not a team. So everybody's one step ahead of me already. Look at this. So we've got the poll up and everyone's already excited about NextCycle Michigan and what role they can see themselves in. So you see a lot of different options. A is using this data that we heard about from Elisa to really enhance material recovery, or really getting support from data experts to develop your idea further. You know, idea is only as good as its follow through, right? And this is what your opportunity is for follow through. Or you've got that shovel ready project that Jim talked about and it's ready to go and you need some funding for it. Or do you see the possible investment for an individual project, that group funding that we just talked about? Maybe it's a possible investment for the whole NextCycle Michigan or a challenge track in particular. We saw those 6 challenge tracks. You could just support one of those. Or looking at sharing information about NextCycle, because nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd. So getting the word out and making sure that we have participation for this collaboration. And then we have a bunch of people that say others. So we like the outside the box thinking, and that's really what NextCycle is all about. Great, I'm seeing the responses. It looks like a lot of people are willing to share. A lot of people are excited about data, and I'm loving the shovel-ready projects. That's exciting. So I think we've got most of the votes in, so I think we'll scoot to the next slide. And I will hand it back over to Matt Fletcher.
Hi again. I love working with this team. I mean, the ideas that are coming forward already, and especially in the chat, and there's been other notes, identifying how important it is to make those collaborative connections across the supply chain. Recycling's at an exciting place right now. And I mentioned it earlier. There is now a shared responsibility for seeing how we can all grow the circular economy. And it's not just on the backs of government or local government or MDOT or anywhere else. It's all of us working together to grow that circular economy. But what is it that you can do? What does the success look like? Making sure that we identify direct impacts to communities in an equitable way, filling those supply chain gaps, attracting that investment and talent to Michigan, where we've already started seeing this even in the early launch discussions, where we've got businesses and communities in other parts of the country saying, hey, what's going on there? I've got a call next week with Washington that has their eye on what's happening in Michigan, which makes me feel really good that people are seeing Michigan as that leader in recycling again. Having that increased access to infrastructure in markets, and then obviously what we're all here for is growing that robust circular economy in Michigan. So I think that this 121 people on this call all can do one thing. That's spread the word, contemplate what your role could be in this. It looks like, based on that first poll question, we've got research institutions, we've got trade organizations, we've got nonprofits, I've got some lobbyists on here, we've got communities, and we've got entrepreneurs. So thinking about what your role could be to grow this and play a role in supporting either the challenge or the partnership platform. Visit that website that's linked there. And join the mailing list so we can keep you updated, because what we've done here today is just set the stage for what the next steps are going to be. And as we work with all of you to develop the timeline and share that timeline with you, so that you can identify where those funding opportunities are or how to build that team. So you're kept in contact with the process, so you can engage at the right time. Connect with that partnership portal. There's a link there as well, and then also, there's been a lot of data shared today. Support that work. Build the data room. Identify those places where your team could use additional information. And let us get to work to support that. One of the things that I'm most excited about is in supporting the NextCycle process is creating that additional data pipeline out to communities and businesses so that they're able to make good data-driven decisions. So you can help build that as well. So I am really glad that we got to launch today and have you on to listen to all the good work that's happened. And now we've got some time for questions. I know we've started answering them in the Q&A, but maybe we could open it up if there's anybody that wants to tackle one rather than in writing, verbally.
Yeah, definitely. And we have also another poll question in Matt's call to action is, what do you want to see more of? So this is just a quick multiple choice. Do you want to see more about Michigan's gap analysis? Do you want to know more about the individual challenge tracks? Do you want to know about a partner opportunity, whether you're a communications partner, a funding partner? There's so many opportunities to be involved. And this is, as Matt mentioned, this is the beginning of a conversation, that this is a process and everybody's got their hands in, we're ready to go. And so bringing your ideas and your pieces to the overall initiative is what we're looking for. Great. and this is a lot of info, as Yuri mentioned. So we have some questions. We have a bunch of questions that came in over the Q&A. And I think one question in particular was talking about kind of how do we make Michigan competitive as economically in recycling, especially in comparison to our northern partners, our Canadian partners that may be in a different space of recycling. Matt or Dan, or I'm not sure if anybody wants to jump in there as far as talking about the economic drivers and the competition.
I'll jump in really quick.
I'll say something.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
You can go, Jim.
Yeah,
okay, I'll go.
Okay.
So I think that there were a couple of questions that had that intersection of policy, local policy, statewide policy, maybe even national policy, to create the conditions where those teams thrive. And that can be part of what a NextCycle team addresses. So looking at those conditions and policies that are needed, I saw Rhonda made a comment about MDOT and a couple of other ones. So that's how we build those partnerships. So making sure that everybody's there, sees what the objective is, and sees what their role can be, is a great, it will be a great outcome of the NextCycle process to get the teams together, identify what those maybe policies, maybe funding opportunities are needed, and then have us deploy those resources and that knowledge and that information to those teams through the year-long process. So that's, I think your wheels are starting to turn about what's needed, and then what can we through this process support knocking down some of those barriers, making those connections through the NextCycle process.
Did you want to add anything onto that, or did he summarize it?
Great summary. And just to add that we recognize that recycling doesn't really know borders well. Mixed plastics is sorted in Sarnia, just across the border in Canada. Glass is processed in Chicago, Illinois area and in Dayton to become next generation models. So we recognize that the focus of NextCycle is on Michigan's gaps and how we can leverage the marketplace and the supply chains to solve our problems. So it's all part of the solution.
Excellent. We had a couple of questions that came in about university involvement, and I would like to turn it over and see if Yuri would like to talk about how I don't know, is he still on? Yeah, he's just not on video. There you are. Yeah. Would like to talk about how universities have been involved in Colorado NextCycle.
Yeah, I love that question. Universities, we see as a natural incubator for innovation and ideas. In the state of Colorado, we had School of Mines as well as CU Boulder. Both were involved, CU Boulder on year 1, School of Mines year 2. We were able to leverage some of the resources from both of the individuals that volunteered on our advisory committee to give some help to some of the teams. This included getting some students involved in year 1, as well as looking at some testing, some laboratory testing that we did collaboratively through CU Boulder. However, we are open. I would love to see more university involvement in Michigan. This is something we work to do in Colorado. I think that we're medium successful. I don't think the model we had there was absolutely perfect, because I think there's more opportunities we could leverage, especially with graduate students supporting projects or doing some work for projects. So yeah, if you have ideas, if you're at a university, please call us, contact us. We are open for more ideas, because definitely I'd love to be more involved with universities. I don't know if Matt or Dan, you might have some stuff to add too in your experience at accelerators.
Nope. Well, I know we're right at time, so I want to make sure that we close this off with a big salute to the Michigan Recycling Coalition. They've got their conference coming up. So it is the Refocus 2020, and there will be a session on NextCycle from 11 a.m. to noon on October 6th. We hope everyone, 120 people from here, are also on that call, and a big thank you to MRC for their support of NextCycle. And then subsequently, this is the thing you can put in your pocket. You can either develop an idea, become a funding partner, or be an ambassador for NextCycle Michigan. This is how you can participate. This is the beginning of a conversation, as I mentioned. Please feel free and reach out. We will be sending a recording of this to your email as well as other follow-up information. So thank you so much to our fantastic panel and for all of you for attending this session.